Welcome, everybody, to the May 27th, 2021 meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council, serving as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District. We'll call the meeting to order at 3 p.m. and move into roll call, please. Please let the record reflect that all council members are present except for Arborough and Black. Moving on to the prayer and the pledge.
Let's bow our heads. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God, thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We pray for all of those who have lost their lives to this pandemic. We pray that this pandemic comes to an end and the world moves forward to a healthy and brighter future. We pray that this government body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Amen. All right, we're going to follow Dr. Gui into the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Barb, can you please bring us down the agenda, please?
Sure, there is no executive session. Number 3, status report by the Executive Port Director.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chairman, and members of the board. I am Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of Plaquemines Port, Harbor, and Terminal District. Follows is my Executive Director's report for the reporting period of 22 April to 27 May 2021. During this time frame, first and foremost, we received notice from the United States Army Corps of Engineers that parcel B3, the last remaining obligation to Venture Global to deliver 1,200 acres, has finally received its permit. The Colonel called and reported to us what we had unofficially been told last week. Special recognition goes to Paul Matthews, the Port Deputy Director, for his diligent work on this project that has taken 4 years to get the good housekeeping seal of approval. However, seeing how Mr. Matthews is late, that just wiped out his attaboy. We met with the lead team from a very leading warehousing and logistics company whose name cannot be revealed. However, they have expressed a keen interest in the port container project, and these talks are ongoing. We have entered into a memorandum of understanding agreement with AP Moller Terminals, the second largest terminal operator in the world, which is also owned by AP Moller Maersk, the globe's largest container shipper. The MOU kicks off a 120-day due diligence period, whereas members of the AP Moller Group will review the port's value proposition and ascertain their interest to be the PPHTD terminal operator. Members of the APMT team were here this week and met with members of the board. They have expressed not only an interest in being the terminal operator, but a desire to invest in the terminal itself. Lastly, Monday is Memorial Day, a holiday started during the Civil War, whereas families gathered to remember their loved ones who, as stated by President Lincoln, gave the last full measure by giving their lives in defense of our great nation. As you enjoy the long weekend, keep in mind that we are the land of the free because of the brave. Mr. Chairman, subject to your questions or comments of you or the board or folks from the audience, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanders. Are there any questions by the board? All right, hearing none. Thank you for your diligent work behind the scenes there. Any questions from the audience about the Executive Director's report? All right, hearing none. Moving on, please.
3A, financial report budget to actual.
Good afternoon. All port commissioners have been provided a 2021 total budget report and a detailed budget report with actual expenditures shown as of April 30th, 2021. A subcategory budget to actual summary has been provided on the front cover sheet. Tariff revenues are currently 4% ahead of budget. Legal support is 9% over budget at this time, and total operating expenses are 17% below budget. It's a couple of highlights. Subject to any questions, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Shannon Burrell. Are there any questions from the board on the financial report? Commissioner Russo.
Yes, on the legal expenses, this is an item that I've been raising a red flag on from the beginning of the year. Have y'all got a strategy on how you're going to reel it into the budget?
Yes, sir, we do have a strategy. We have cut back on many expenses, such as if you have an earmark of what we can do with travel, then you just stop traveling. However, there is a need, ongoing need for our legal. We're trying to be as prudent as possible, but I'm going to tell you right now, I will probably be coming before the board to have an increase in that legal fee.
And that's exactly why I've been cautioning your expenditure of legal fees since the beginning of the year. And there are several points that I pointed to you that didn't need to be expended. And I guess you just ignored that. And for instance, there were meetings that were held where the attorney sat on the other end of the phone and didn't say a word. And those are the type of things like reviewing agendas. And I believe that, you should take it seriously. And you're already telling us you're going to come and ask for more money. So from here on, I think you should take it seriously and try to live within the budget. And that's all I have to say.
Well, Mr. Russo, I can assure you, we take it very serious. We are trying to do as much as we can on the in-house, but I feel that there are things that a prudent executive director needs to have legal to look at it, and I'm going to always err in that era. But we have drastically cut back on what we have been sending to Mr. Rathburn. But I do appreciate your comment. I fully understand where you're coming from.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? How about from the audience? Mr. Forshey, please state your name and address for the record.
Rob Forshey, Val Chase. The budget to actual, is it posted in the library?
The budget to actual is not posted in the library. The budget to actual changes on a daily basis as expenses are incurred, but the adopted budget, which is the allowed spending by the board for the agency, is located in all libraries throughout the parish and is also located on the port's website.
Okay, well, that's not adequate. The citizens of this parish deserves the right to look at all budget and expenditures through the date that is given, which I think was just given to be April. And I would suggest that that be mandated for that to happen so that the citizens of this parish can see exactly what is being spent and on what. So I'd appreciate it if the board would, or the commission would make that happen. Thank you.
Ms. Riley Williams, is there mechanisms in place where you're doing, periodic checks where that could just be dropped into a link to satisfy the public?
The public has the right to request any public documents. If the documents are requested through a public records request, they will be supplied in accordance to the port's policy.
Got it. And I understand that is the job of the Director of Administration, but can you give us an idea of just how many man-hours it takes to provide the information through a public records request. It may just be easier to post the information almost automatically or at a regular schedule.
Well, after the last couple of requests, we did implement in 2021 that a quarterly report, as I did last month, at last month's financial review, that quarterly report was presented here. We went more into detail, and there was a presentation given, and that presentation has been posted on the port's website. So the procedure was to have that readily available to the public via the website on a quarterly basis. As I stated, budget to actual changes daily. So to give that accurate information as such, to, it's unaudited and it changes on a daily basis.
Mr. Forshey, I'm not sure of the rules here. You might only be allowed to come up one time per question. And I think that, just a reminder, the questions do need to be directed towards the commissioners and not the staff, according to legal.
I'm Donald Valet, Bill Chase.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, I did file a Freedom of Information request to the port and presented to this council, which you all directed the port to issue to me. I will tell you that they did prepare a report for me, Ms. Nielsen. I subsequently came in and met with Camberell and Mr. Matthews on what they had.
And Mr. Valley, how much did it cost you?
Nothing.
Okay.
Okay. I know how to file freedom of information request. All you got to do is ask for it, and you examine it yourself in place. You don't have to be paid anything. You can request a CD, which they can furnish you, and there's some cost. I think it's what, $5 cost. It's insignificant. But let me say, they were very cooperative in what they furnished me. It was not what I was looking for precisely. And in dealing with Ms. Camberell and Mr. Matthews, I agreed with them until they get their quarterly reports out, which would come into April. It was no sense me coming back and looking at any strategic numbers that they had. I did just talk to her just now. She says she has the quarterly report published on her website. Is that correct? All right. Unfortunately, it doesn't go into line item accountability. I asked her if I'd come over and get a copy of that. Are you going to require another freedom request to that or extension of what I had before?
I will.
That's fine.
I appreciate record of the things that are given out to the public.
One-page email is cheap.
And what is it?
We can handle that. We can work cooperative. What I want to see is what you all should see. And like you said, Mr. Roussel, line item budgets by category and by line item, and any variance that goes along with that, both up and down on both sides, so you can see where this is going. I think you also need to see what projections are being made and what activities are going on in this port, very similar to what the Port of New Orleans issues to the public. Now, I will say is that I don't think you need to go through a freedom of information request to see financial information on the operations of this company. I think you all can direct this agency, publicize it on their website. That's fine. Anybody can look at it there. We don't need to go through a lot of hoo-ha. And I think, it doesn't hurt you all to publish it. And I'll direct it to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mutt. Thank you very much, Mr. Valley. I feel like we've been through this many times already. And I mean, is this quarterly? It seems like quarterly information might satisfy the appetite of the public. If those quarterly reports could be, placed on the website, it sounds like they're already there, right?
Yes.
Got it. All right.
I think what Mr. Valet is looking for is, instead of, for example, a line for communication, he would like to see a line for communication on internet or cell phone and, into details as of that, instead of it being subcategory into communication. And if that information is provided to the board, you have those details. If that's where we need to bring it to where we're going down there and you want to direct me to do that, then we can do that. But it is subcategory into those categories as we adopted in the budget policy, and it's provided to you on your cover sheet.
I know I've been up there. I get back on my comments. I need to respond to it.
Certainly.
Can't do that.
Mr. Chairman, I can't let it lie.
It is constantly what I've seen. Y'all don't want to publicize any of your operations on any basis. It's simple enough for one of you members to make a resolution today to instruct them to publicize all the information, including all the line item activities. It's a simple process, and that's the only way you're going to see what they do.
Duly noted. Thank you very much. All right. I mean, I agree with you. I err on the side of more transparency is better, and I feel like we would lift a lot of friction if you get what you would like. So, all right, if there's no other questions, moving on, please.
4A, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for a used river barge for docking the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District vessels and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Don, would you please explain what this is for the public? Oh, I'd like to offer it, and seconded by Commissioner Newberry. Donald, do you care to elaborate on this legislation, the
Yes.
purpose of purchasing the river barge, et cetera?
Yes, this
Thank you.
barge, this was a river barge that's going to be put close to mile marker 50 on port property. We have a federal grant to purchase the barge and equip it out. It goes in conjunction with the dock that's going to be put at that location as well. So we did the proper advertising throughout the paper, and the advertisement received bids on the river barge, which I believe was all sent to you guys. And at this point, we're going to choose the Canal Barge Inc. bid. It happens to be the lower bid, and also logistically, if the barge is still in inventory, where we'd like to go.
All right. Are there any questions by the board? Oh, Roussel's next in the queue.
Yes, thank you for submitting the proposal, the advertisements and so forth, but I didn't see the bids that were submitted back to the proposal in the email.
Really, I'm sorry, I did not send that. Actually, the Director of Administration sent those out, and I was copied in them. It actually showed the people present at the bid opening, the actual bidders, and all those documents.
Donald, it was sent out. I seen it. Yeah.
Right, I thought so. It was sent out. And obviously, Mr. Russo, we can resend it or get it to you either way you want.
All I have is we have a blank in the resolution, that's why I was asking, because.
Yes, sir. Now, we can get all that documentation to you. I can let you know, of course, at this point, there was two persons that put bids in, and one was 100,000, one was 65,000. And Canal Barge is a 65,000. And that's who we're choosing at this time.
No, just so we're all on the same page, what's the approximate age of the barge and condition?
It varies. Canal Barge and both the other company put bids in saying they had 2, 3, 6, whatever it was. So at this point, once we're through this process, the tires need to go kicked. We get a marine surveyor to look at them and choose the best barge for the dollar. That's what it boils down to. That takes going to Houma and different places. So I didn't do any of that traveling. I took pictures from them and information from them and documentation. And then now I need to go actually kick the tires.
Got it. All right.
Excuse me, Mr. Durr,
Yes, ma'am.
I caught Canal Barge, but is it Inc. after?
Yes, ma'am. Canal Barge Inc. Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
So on line 7, 11, and 18, we would fill in Canal Barge Inc.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Rousseau, are you done?
So it's my understanding that we are going to buy a barge from Canal Barge Inc. for $65,000, and you have a choice of which barge you're going to pick?
He has 3 on his bid list for that price range, yes, sir.
And so we're going to have a marine surveyor pick the best for the buck?
I plan to have a marine surveyor accompany me to go kick the tires, and then at that point, it will need to go to dry dock and do blasting, painting, whatever else it needs. To give you a basic idea, this same barge new is over $500,000. So finding one, as Mr. Blink asked, these barges are between the mid-80s and mid-90s. And depending, of course, if they've been in fresh water, which is what I'm looking for, nothing that's been in the salt water, they hold up pretty well. And again, it's going to be used for a dock, not for transporting materials.
So do you plan on dry docking this barge and having it
Yes, sir.
refurbished?
It'll definitely have to be dry docked.
Do you have a budget for that?
Yes, sir.
How much is that?
Well, I don't have total figures on that.
No, I'm saying the budget. What budget do you
The
have?
total grant funds for this to purchase barge is $308,000.
How much?
$308,000 for the project. About $8,000 that will be administrative stuff and grant writing. Right, funding is there. It's 25% match.
On top of the 308?
No. That's 308 is the total of the grant. And that's 20, and there's also state funds available. If they're still available, again, they're drilling down for the 25% match.
So at the end of the day, we'll have 308,000 in this barge?
I'm hoping not to. I'm hoping to have around 200. I'm hoping to defer the remaining monies to the actual dock that the barge will be docked at.
Right.
Through the PMC, you're allowed to do that if you request it and the other fellow members agree.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Kognovich?
We have the permits already from the Corps about where the docks are gonna be built.
That is ongoing, has been ongoing for some 6, 8 months now. It's behind B3, but has been going on prior to the grant and the funds.
And just so everybody's on the same page, there are changes to getting something like this done. For instance, there could be no parking lot on the Batcher side. There has to be a walkway over the Batcher. We can't create obstructions there now. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that changed this project in a dollar amount. And in today's times, as we well know, every day goes by, the materials are going up and labor is going up. So when this project started off a few years back, it was going to be a spudded barge that I could have done for less than $300,000. And those figures are graduating because of core regs. You cannot disturb the dirt more than 12 inches, can't impact the levee system any kind of way, and cannot spud.
Thank you. Mr. Russo?
Just to clarify, we did not receive that email? It's being sent now? So, I mean, I know the statement was made, it was emailed, and I hear that a lot, but we did not receive it. You sent it to one person?
My apologies. I looked at the email chain, and I actually have it right here on my phone.
Well, I do too, and Ms. Newberry also. And I don't like this interaction where we saying, we sent the email, it makes it look like we don't read our emails. And I read my emails.
I wasn't.
And I'll tell you, it wasn't sent. It wasn't sent.
Donald, Christie sent it to the chair and the vice chair. So just let her know to make sure she
My
sends it to
apologies,
the-
and I wasn't.
Make sure she sends it to the board next time. Thank you.
Gotcha. Point taken.
All right. Commissioner LaFrance?
Yes, to be clear, where exactly were you gonna park this barge at?
And the Mississippi River, just on the south side of the B3 project, which is just on the south side of the VG footprint. That's
Give
going to
me
be
a
mid,
land area.
that's going to be mid,
Give me a land
Point
area.
Celeste, on the south side of Port Ship.
Okay.
in Point Celeste, yes, sir.
All right.
That's where our 90-foot response vessel, our largest vessel, will go, where all this infrastructure is going to be coming in at, and also the existing infrastructure. Right now, we have 2 vessels parked in Belchase and 1 in Venice. My goal and the port's goal for many years has been to get a vessel midway. Also for Coast Guard, PPSO, and everybody to respond. There's not a vessel that they can go jump on, and we can get on patrols in that mid-river, our middle of our district.
And what size is this barge?
It's a 7 by 120 by 30.
Say that again?
30 by 120 by 7.
Made out of steel?
Yes, sir.
Donald, is there going to be an emergency launch located at the facility for oil spills and things of that nature?
There will be no launch as far as launching other vessels. Fortunately, Port Ship and Belchase Marine do have small cranes. They can put small response vessels in the water there.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions, Mr. LaFrance?
I'm good.
Any other questions from the board or from the audience? Mr. Valek?
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman. This is a non-budgeted item, as I understand, and it is a grant for the entire funding of this. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'll let Donald answer that.
It's a grant, a federal grant, Port Security federal grant. It's 25% match. And, right, and it's in the 2021 budget.
I didn't see anything in the budget for this.
It has its own line item, its own,
There's in the budget?
every,
I was just on the website. I can't find anything on there.
yes, sir. Every grant we have, every project we have has its own line item.
It's 75% funded by the federal government.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all.
Are there any other questions from the audience? Hearing none, moving along, please.
A vote on it.
Oh. There we go.
Go back and vote on it.
Machine is open.
Benny, you having issues? No. Okay.
Everybody voted?
Be quiet.
We have different screens up here right now. All right, and it passes 7 with 2 absent.
4B, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of bids for a mobile maritime domain to security trailer for the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Right. Donald, since this is in your wheelhouse as well, could you please explain just for the record and for the public? Oh,
We need an offer.
I'm sorry, I'd like to offer it, and Kognovich, would you like to? Kognovich seconds?
Yes, sir. This is a trailer that's going to replace a 2006 FEMA travel trailer that was converted at Belle Chase Dock. This is where the monitors are at, where we monitor the ferries and cameras, and where the crew makes crew change besides actually being on the vessels. So this thing is rotten. It came off the blocks for Zeta. It's been piecemealed back together. Of course, it's a 2006 with many people going through it. What we're looking to purchase here is what you see on most construction sites, like an 8 by 30 or 10 by 30 type of just a plain Jane trailer, and then outfitted with the monitoring systems for the cameras, naturally a bathroom, sink, that kind of stuff, kitchen sink, things of that nature. Again, we advertised for this in the paper, reached out to different folks in this business to try to find a used one because a new one, we didn't have enough funds. This is also a federal grant. So we're looking for a refurbished trailer and something that we can build out to our needs. It's mobile because it'll be temporary. It will be on wheels. It'll be there in case of high river or something happens, we need to move it as per the Corps guides. And we accepted a bid on this one from Pac Van. The name of the company is Pac-Van. PAC-VAN, Inc.
And the total cost?
$10,775. Again, that's for the shell, just a shell of a trailer to be built out. Total funds on that grant, $37,500.
Thank you for the update. Does this particular piece of equipment have both a person and a place that deals with it during hurricanes? So it doesn't sustain
Yes,
the
this
same
is
damages as the last one?
This is a 24/7 purpose, like I said, unless all the men are actually on a vessel. They use this, we commonly referred to as the shack, because that's about what it's always been. It's either been on the barge or landside. This will be landside. It provides them the basics without being on the barge as far as windows facing the river, a counter, the monitors, computer, bathroom. It will have, of course, a microwave where they can put a coffee pot out, things like that to get out of the inclement weather. And it has the monitoring system, both computer for the port, monitoring system for the ferries, cameras on the river, and that's where this is housed, because we can't put all that on the boats, and the boats leave the dock and they're not being monitored.
Certainly. And Mr. Durr, was there any discussion about maybe co-locating the operations that are happening with inside this shack with the 911 center?
Well, that's kind of a moot point because they're busy in 911. The whole purpose of the way the port got involved with this monitoring of the cameras was because of the ferry situation that we spoke about in the past. They needed somebody to monitor cameras 24/7. And that's where we applied for port security grant because we're actually monitoring port security cameras. and we're successful.
Okay, all right. Mr. Russo?
I was just going to make the same comment. We didn't get the email either on this item.
And I do apologize. Ms. Nielsen couldn't attend, and again, I assumed it went to all 9. As we well know now, we'll get it to all 9.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any questions from any of the remaining members of the board or from the audience? All right, hearing none. And this one's 7-0 as well. Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Durr. We appreciate it.
Number 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Chairman, we have 3. For Commissioner Blink, a resolution authorizing the Port Executive Director Maynard J. Sanders for and on behalf of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to name and accept a proposal of the Plaquemines Gazette as the official journal for the Plaquemines Parish Council as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Commissioner Newberry, a resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to amend the current agreement for business consulting services focusing on the port's procurement policy with J.D. Russell Consulting for the improvement and possible development of a new policy by extending the agreement and otherwise provide with respect thereto. And for Commissioner Roussel, a resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council as acting as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, authorizing and directing Executive Director to engage the Miller Niktakis Group and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the introductions.
Madam Vice Chairman, you were going to introduce the contract but not ask for,
Yes, that is correct. I'm not going to suspend the rules that we have on the agenda. And I wanted to tell my reason why, because the public would want to know, because it's on the agenda. We had on the agenda suspension of the rules for an agreement with an investment. So we feel that we don't have all the answers to all the questions that need to be, that have been presented. So we're not going to suspend the rules. We're just going to introduce it. So Barb, if you don't mind introducing that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
For Commissioner Newberry, a resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to execute an agreement with sustainability partners and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And that concludes the introductions.
Thank you, Barb. Moving along.
Number 6A, there are none. 6B, a resolution adopting new and updated policies of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, specifically a policy on policies, codes of ethics, and workplace conduct, procurement and public works policy, and telecommuting policy.
Ms. Councilmember Newberry, we
That's
will.
going to be deferred.
C, a resolution approving and authorizing Richie Blank, Port Chairman, Maynard J. Sanders, Port Executive Director, and Shambro Riley Williams, Port Director of Finance, to execute the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire to counterterroring companies, CPAs, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
All right, this is the standard external audit. I'd like to offer it.
Second.
Mr. Kogovich would like to second. So this is the standard external audit that we do every year. Is there any questions from the board or from the audience? All right, hearing none.
What you doing over there, John?
7 with 2 absent.
Six D, an ordinance to amend and as amended the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District 2021 operating budget of revenue and expenditures and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Right. So this is for a water booster station.
Offer.
Oh, I'd like to offer, I'm sorry.
Second.
I'm wanting to get the business done and not so hung up on the procedural today. My apologies, everyone. So this is for a water booster station that would benefit the Venture Global site, and it looks like there's going to be a cost in pursuit of federal funds to get this done. If could we get a little explanation from the port staff on this, please?
Yeah, in the meeting that we had regarding the booster station at the council conference room, we stated the port would pay for the engineering required for the service of the booster station. So that is what this is about. Anyone want to add to that? Yeah.
Commissioner Russo, you have the floor.
Yes, we're taking this out of the port's land fund balance. You don't think there's another professional services line item in the budget that we could charge this to rather than taking it out of the land fund?
And just to clarify, to date, the land fund balance has not been touched, just at even 10 million in there?
No, sir, that is not the land fund. The estimated land fund balance has been provided in your financial report as of 4/30/2021, and that would have an ending balance of $2,330,691 for the land fund.
The question is not about the land fund. The question is about other professional service items in the budget. How much do you have in professional services in the budget at this time, throughout the budget, that this 250 could be charged to?
And as you know, in 2020 versus 2021, the port incurred a great deal of budget cuts, including professional services general. Our 2021 budget for professional services general is $110,000. We have currently spent $19,925 of that, based on this current budget performance report.
So
There are other items earmarked for that, that was projected out, such as year-end audit cost, any cost associated. I know we did a recent, actuary services, so there are other services that we have earmarked for the $110,000.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Newberry.
Jim Burrell, can you hear me? Can you explain to the public exactly the land fund? Can you explain the land fund to the public?
Yes, ma'am. So the land fund, according to, a resolution was passed in 2002. It's Resolution 0245 that required the port to reserve 20% of its tariff revenue each year, and it is put into a land fund. And it's set aside, and the board has the discretion to
Can you explain? what
appropriate
we can
funds from
purchase?
that.
Can you explain to the public also what can we use that land fund for, that 20%, just to clarify all that?
It's to the board's discretion. I'm pretty sure that's the way it's written, the idea, but I don't want to be quoted on that because I don't know the exact language in the resolution, but I'm sure for capital improvements within the board.
Commissioner Russo.
Yes, Ms. Newberry, I'd like to answer that question. I was the parish president at the time when we created this fund. And the purpose of this fund that we set up was to acquire properties in the future. And it was a land acquisition fund called, because of that, a land acquisition fund. That's why we named it that. And so when we created this fund, it was for the purpose of purchasing land.
Okay, good.
I'm waiting on a response from the staff.
But Mr. Roussel was there. I wasn't, like I said, I
Look, I'm not
interpreted that.
I'm not opposing the project, but I wanted to be clear what this land fund was established for. The question was asked, and I'm answering it. And I will support the $250,000 because you've told me that that's going to be the extent of the engineering fee on this project. and it will not exceed that, so I'm willing to support it at this point.
All right. Are there any other questions about this item from both the board and the audience? Mr. Forshey?
Rob Forshey, Belchase. So where is the rest, who is going to pay for the station? I understand the engineering is going to come out of these funds, but where is the money going to come from for this booster station? Or is the end user and the reason that we're having to put this booster station in, are they paying for it? Just need an explanation.
Yeah, Mr. Forshey, I've got, a lot of questions about this. I mean, there's a very, very large project that's going to be built there that, frankly, we don't need it if they're not going to be, consuming nearly 1/4 of the entire drinkable water supply on the west bank of the river, right?
Right.
There's also other projects that are slated to be going on either concurrently or just after, which might consume even more water. So I want to make sure we get the best fit, et cetera. But it looks like there's a push to use either federal grant money or port priority funding, funding of that nature to fund the booster station. And again, I'm just wondering aloud here, does it make more sense to build, for the future where, maybe it makes sense to have a water tower as well as a booster station. Maybe the capacity needs to be 50% bigger because there might be other projects, large container port, whatever else, that might be south of that location. And I don't know if I feel comfortable with the answers that I have there.
Right. Well, my whole issue is that here we're spending this money on engineering, and yet we don't even have a plan as to where and who's going to pay for it and where the money's going to come from. Is it going to wind up being another tax on the citizens of this parish? Is it going to wind up being another millage? Is it going to wind up being the port paying for it? What is it going to be? And I think that there should be some pre-planning, some things ironed out, and get the ducks in a row. Which
Certainly.
I understand what you're saying, and I think that there's a path, and that there's definitely a plan, but I don't think the plan has been ironed out yet because of exactly what you just said, right?
And I think that others might feel more comfortable with the plan that is laid out, but I don't think I necessarily do. But as to your question about will it be a tax or burden on the citizens of Plaquemines, I don't think it is, but at the same time, I don't know if we should be using federal money to subsidize this sort of thing. There's a big industrial site going there. Maybe it's
Right.
it's
Well,
on
we
them
didn't-
to
we didn't
pay for that
think-
kind of thing.
Right.
But
We didn't think we'd wind up with a $7 added to our water bill either, but we wound up with that. Okay, so, and look, I'm not wanting to dredge up these skeletons here, but the problem is that the plan needs to be made and presented so that the people of the parish, the citizens of the parish, understand what and how this money is going to be collected and spent.
yeah,
That's
Mr.
all. That's all
Mr.
I'm
Forshey, it's you're very frustrating when you ask, these things in a pointed way where you're looking at a 20, 30, 50-year timeline, that, you are here for just, a blip in time, but you want to prepare infrastructure to meet future and current needs. And in the process is somewhat opaque. Or even as the chairman of the port, you can't really, pin down and guide what exactly has happened. It's very frustrating. So I hear what you're saying there, and at the end of the day, just like the mosquito fee, sometimes you just got to pay for the projects and move on to keep the quality of life high. Commissioner Rousseau?
Mr. Forshey, this project came to being at this table some time ago, and the premise that it was laid out, we learned later that the information that was given was not accurate. And the Port Administration decided that they were going to go and seek money to build this project, so they should have to answer as to where they think they're going to get the funding. I'm supporting the engineering portion of it at this time, even though it was laid at the feet of Venture Global, that they had a need for it, and since then, we have learned that all that information was not accurate. And for whatever reason, the port decided to pick this up. They did. Now it's on them to find the funding to construct this project through some type of grants or port priority funding program. That is their plan that they've expressed to us. And so I think they can enlighten you on what their funding source is for construction of the project, since we're willing to put a $250,000 plan on the shelf until they get the money. So do y'all have any answers for that, Mr. Executive Director?
The port has agreed to put up the engineering costs. In that meeting, there was misinformation that was stated, but at the end of the meeting, it was quite clear that they're going to need this booster station. And so how that became an obligation of the port, I don't agree with that. It is an obligation of the parish.
Then Mr. Sanderson, why are we going through the port to do this?
Well, if you guys want to pay for it, for the engineering, I mean, we're doing that to assist.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't think that the clear picture has come about when you're saying that they need it, because they haven't determined their water needs
I
as
think
of
you were in the
date.
same meeting that I was in,
I was.
and I think Robert Morgan clearly stated that that was needed.
Robert Morgan does not represent Venture Global.
Okay. He represents the parish, I guess.
He represents the contractor that operates a water system. The premise that was presented to this board was that Venture Global needed this water because they couldn't get a permit to get the water out of the river. We since have learned that all of that information was incorrect and not accurate.
And we have openly stated that that was a misstatement.
Okay, so let's just move on. And the question is, where do you intend to get the construction funds to build this project, as what Mr. Fauché has
We
requested?
are going to go through the port priority and capital outlay that we're being able to use those vehicles, but it's not a guarantee that we'll get the money. But we're going to go through the process. And we also have a grant writer that's going to be coming on, and that'll be one of the things that she will apply for.
Just every time the lights go out down the road, I lose water pressure. It goes down to the ground. And I'm openly wondering right now, does it make sense to have a water tower tied into this thing? But
I'm going to sit down and listen.
Thank you.
You guys don't want it.
all right, I yield. Hi, Mr. Valley.
Donald Valley. Rob and I had made a chance to even talk about this, and I was not knowing his comments, but what I've been hearing about is that this project is nearing going to be costing close to $50 million. Is that correct, to put this together?
No.
I'll ask you, how much? $4 million? Total, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
4 million.
$4 million for the entire project? And
Water line only we're talking about.
what about the plant? The pumping station? What about the pumping station?
This is for a water booster station that would be located just upstream of the Venture Global site to provide them with the adequate pressure for construction and operations.
I understand, but this pumping station, this station is solely for the benefit of Global Venture. Who ought to pay for it? Well, that's what I've been hearing.
We have since learned that that is not the
No,
truth.
that is
Oh.
incorrect. No.
That is not the truth.
These are more
It was
misinformation.
presented that
Chairman,
way, but it's
if I
not
may,
the truth.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Please explain, Mr.
to
Mayor.
be clear. Number one, this project was brought to the port by the parish in January of 2021. It became our understanding that of all of 2020, there was a discussion regarding the need for a water booster station and dual lines for water infrastructure, not only for the benefit of Venture Global's operations, but for the benefit of the people in the surrounding areas. Because if Venture Global would be operating at the current capabilities of our water infrastructure for the parish, it would be a detriment to the people of the surrounding communities. And that was for an entire year that discussion was going on, and the port was not aware of it. So in January of 2021, Robert Morgan with Infomark, who is contracted by the parish, came to the port and said, is there any way that the port can help get this project off the ground? Because the parish is not capable of handling this project financially. When it was described to us what the need was, why it was needed, we said we'll do everything that we can to get this project off the ground. After that meeting, I immediately called A.J. Walker with Venture Global and told them that the port now realizes that this is something that is needed for Venture Global and the community. And so we are going to do everything we can. And then I provided him an email letting him know what the project looks like, along with letting the board know what are the opportunities. And then we went out, we got the RFQs, and the board approved this agreement for us to get this water booster station done. The plan is to apply for port priority programs with the state. The state rules are very simple. They cannot pay the soft costs. They cannot pay for the planning and engineering. That's what I mean. So we're going out of our way with an estimate of $250,000 to pay for the planning, engineering, and design of the water booster station and the 20-inch dual feed lines that go from Belle Chase down to Alliance to the water booster station to take care of not only Venture Global, not only all the other operations within the community, but also the adjacent neighborhoods, so they don't suffer a lack of water infrastructure. The plan is to get this engineering done and then go after port priority funds from the state to pay for it. The other option is potential federal dollars, which may have to have a match from port funding as well on the construction. But this is a parish this is a parish responsibility.
Mr. Matthews.
There's an opportunity, there's an opportunity for the port to help out the parish government that cannot pay for this because it has a benefit to port operations and a benefit to the community. That is the purpose, that is the plan, and those are the ways forward and procedures to get the funding.
I understand where you come from. It's simple enough to understand, but a couple of questions is, what's the overall cost? We haven't heard any cost. You're saying $4 million? Just
Yeah, it was $4 million. It was $4 million
How much of
for the
that
entire cost
How
of
much
the
of that
project.
cost is accessible to the parish for its portion, and how much is accessible to Global Venture? And is Global Venture going to pay their cost, their pro rata share?
The plan is, as of right now, is that the port will go after port priority funds from the state to pay for the cost.
I understand it, but we
Okay.
can take $250 million or $250,000 out of your budget, which they approved today, and I concur with them on that aspect. What's the overall cost and where we can get the money? We like to do a lot of engineering, but if
As
we
I
don't
said,
see the end
overall
result of where we're
construction
going
cost
to
is
get
$4
there,
million, sir. The construction cost is $4 million. We've
that's
stated
not the
this.
whole operation. That only gets us to the goal line, doesn't get us across the goal line.
No, the water booster station and the field line is $4 million, sir. We've stated this in other meetings as well.
Somewhere along the lines,
Mr.
$50
Valley.
million comes into play, and there's been discussions about adding additional fees on to the parish residents and their water bills to pay for this thing.
That is not true. That is absolutely not true. Absolutely not true.
Well, I'm just trying to find out who's going to pay.
I just told you we're going to work with the state to get port priority funds to do it. It's $4 million.
More pie in the sky, but I mean,
Y'all, this is quickly becoming a Q&A and is not allowed by the rules. Thank you.
Thank you.
both. I appreciate it.
One point of clarification, Mr. Matthews, you stated that the line was going to start from Belle Chase. Could you give us the terminus on both ends of where the line will go to and start?
My understanding from Mr. Morgan is that they're going to connect in to the Belle Chase line. Now, where that is, you have to talk to Mr. Morgan about that. I'm not the engineer on the project.
So you don't know
But
where it's going to
but the plan is to be at Alliance for a water booster station and bring in 20-inch, my understanding again, for a dual feed to service the people and the businesses of that area. Now, if you like, as we move forward with the engineering, I will make sure that you guys have all the details, but I'm working directly with parish government, specifically Robert Morgan, on this process. I'm not an engineer. I don't have expertise in water infrastructure, but our plan is to get this project done.
Just like to add again here on the record that there seems to be an apparent need that is missing from this project, which is a water tower. Whenever the lights go out, we lose a significant amount of water pressure down the road, and I feel like we are on a razor-thin edge of avoiding boil water authorities. With Venture Global's increased consumption, we're
Yeah.
What was that, Mr.?
Yeah, he was just
Mr.
saying
Jarrett?
the lines would approve all the way, to that area and possibly even further down. But you make a good point, Mr. Blank, and as we talked about in many meetings, that you have very serious concerns about water infrastructure, which we agree on. Obviously, we need to work with Mr. Morgan, with the parish government, and in particular, that I think there will be some opportunities for federal grants, and hopefully if we can get this Ms. Nakatakis to work with us for federal grant opportunities, there's ways that the parish and the port can work together to get those funds.
Perfect. I'm in agreement, but I think what I'm saying up here is, hold on, what I'm saying.
Call the question.
We're not in these discussions like we need to be. This board is not included in these discussions at the level we need to be. Thank you.
Can I respond?
Question's been called.
Sorry.
Question's been called.
7-0. Next, please.
E, a resolution authorizing Maynard J. Sandy Sanders, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to amend agreement with
Barbara, that'll be withdrawn.
Okay. 7A was read in as an introduction. Number 8, approval of the minutes of the April 22nd, 2021 meeting minutes.
Second.
Offered by Rousseau, seconded by Newberry.
Mr. Bartholomew?
7-0.
Motion adjourned.
Motion adjourned by Cognovich, seconded by Blink. All right, 7-0. All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council, serving as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to close at 3:56 PM.